Woohoo! Here we go, part 2. Thanks for hanging in there with me. We're just continuing from the last step in the first video, and we're gonna go back to the layers panel. Create a new layer. Next, we're gonna select one of the stamp brushes that's a triple heart and is included in my Fun Vday Procreate Brush clack that is available in any of my store locations. Link above. But I'm just gonna go ahead and fiddle with a couple of these brushes and add them and resize them to where I think they fit most on all separate layers. Now we're going to go to the layers panel and create a new layer and move it below the outline layer for the word love. At this time, you're going to want to tap on that layer and enable the drop menu and select reference. This is going to help us create our color layer. Then by clicking the color selector in the right corner, I'm going to begin creating the color fill layer by dropping lighter and darker shades of the color red I have selected. I am also working from the classic color view panel. This panel will make it easier for me to pick shades that are a tad lighter or darker. Here I'm creating a new layer for each word I want to fill. I'm also color dropping easily because I've went ahead and made the outline layer a reference by tapping on it and selecting reference from the menu in the layers panel. After I've created all my fill layers, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my heart stamp and I'm going to add a few more where I think they should go and add some final details. If you ever think that your stamp is too light, you can always duplicate that layer and combine it down, and that will darken it and make it less transparent. Now that we've placed our heart stamps, we're going to go ahead and try to change the base color so that they match our words a little better. We're going to do this by going to the layers panel and making sure reference isn't selected on any of those layers. Next, we're going to swipe right, and that's going to alpha lock that layer of our heart stamp. Then we'll use the same color picker and we're going to alternate between the same colors that we used and color drop on each of those heart layers to change their base color. Here's a great spot where you're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention to your threshold bar up top while you're color dropping. This is going to enable you to choose which parts of the stamp you want to fill. For instance, I can go ahead and zoom in and color fill just the inside of the hearts and leave the outline another color. I went ahead and created an ombre effect inside of this heart by color dropping specifically inside of the heart and then using the Gaussian blur effect in the adjustments panel. Also, don't forget to turn on and off your background layer just to give you a better preview of what your design might look like on other substrates. Like I'll often change it to black so then I can make sure that if I need to add a white layer behind my design to make it show up better on darker substrates, I can do that. We went ahead and selected the light brush in the Luminance Procreate built-in brushes. We created a new layer underneath our heart stamps, and we're just going to go ahead and trace over our hearts. Hopefully you do a better job than I did, but if you don't, you can follow my steps and you can duplicate your first heart layer that looks good, and you can move it and position it behind your other stamps by using your transform tool. Another great tip and another great time to take advantage of that hues, saturation, and brightness feature in your adjustments tool. Here is where you can make your colors more bright or darker, or you can totally change them entirely if you want. But it's a good way to get other color variations of a design as well, without having to put in the legwork and change the individual layers themselves. Once I have all my hearts placed and I've figured out what kind of shades I want to go with for this design, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to the layers panel and we're going to select the sight word layer this time. Not the colorful, we're going to want to select the outline. We're going to skip ahead a little bit and we're going to make sure that alpha lock is selected on this layer by swiping right and making it go checkboard in the layers panel. You're going to see a checkboard background on that layer, and that's how you're going to know that your alpha lock is enabled. Once you have double checked and your alpha layer is indeed enabled, you're going to go ahead to your color picker up top and you're going to start to color pick the same colors you used and alternate in between them. Now again, here is where you're going to want to watch that threshold bar up top, because you're going to need to adjust it a bit down to make sure that you're just color dropping the individual letters and not the whole word. If you're filling up the background like the whole canvas, or it's filling up the whole word like every single letter and not individually, you're going to have to look up top at that threshold when you go to drop that color and adjust it a little bit down, and that should solve your issue. Once I have all the individual letters dropped, I'm going to go ahead to all the other word layers, turn on the alpha lock by again swiping right and making sure that their backgrounds have turned to check marks. And then I'm going to use that threshold bar and the color drop, and I'm going to continue to change the colors accordingly and transition in between all of them until they're all done and everything seems to look pretty seamless and come together. The next step we're going to get ready to do is add a bit of an offset and a bit of a groovy kind of retro kind of look to it. When working with adding a black offset, you're going to want to turn on your background layer in your layers panel and make sure that it's set to white. This will help your visibility. First, you're going to want to go to that layers panel and you're going to want to take all those outline layers and combine them with all of your letter fills to make them just one layer. Here you can use a quick gesture and you can go ahead and pinch those two layers together to combine them. Once you have combined all those layers, you're going to go ahead and duplicate each one, and then you're going to go back to the layers panel and you're going to create a new layer that's going to be a colorful layer on top of that layer you just duplicated. You're going to want to tap on that layer, and this is going to enable the drop menu again, and you're going to select clipping mask. Then you're going to go to the top and select black and color drop it in. Then you're going to move that layer behind your love and offset it just a bit by using the transform tool. You're going to want to repeat those steps and create an offset black layer for each of your words. For a bit more added pop, I went ahead and I duplicated all of those black offset letters and turned them white, and then offset them a bit more behind my black layer.